One interesting thing about my family is that we have German ancestry. This means that many years ago, some ancestors in my family immigrated from Germany to the United States. So now, no one in my family actually speaks the German language, and no one has ever been to Germany, but we still like to celebrate our German ancestry and take part in some traditions. So for example, my family and I participate in a festival called Oktoberfest that takes place in October. And we like to eat a lot of traditional German foods like potato pancakes and bratwurst.
My family is unique in that polydactyly runs in it. Polydactyly is a genetic anomaly usually occurring in dogs, cats, or humans, where in this case the person is born with extranumerary fingers or toes. So in other words, extra fingers run in my family. You look right here at those nubs on the ends of my pinkies. I don't know if you can see those, but those were fingers when I was born. And then the day that I was born, they wrapped them up with string, and then about 8 days later, after the circulation died off, they just kind of fell off. So I was born with extra fingers. My cousin David, who lives in Jamaica, was born with extra fingers. My grandfather, Charles, was born with extra fingers, and David's grandfather, my grandfather's brother, was also born with extra fingers. So this genetic trait, skips a generation and lands on the males. Yeah, that's something that's unique about my family. I was kind of weird about it when I was a kid because, you know, kids can be cruel, and I would get made fun of because of them, so I kind of try to hide my hands. But then as I got older and got more confident with my own individuality, I kind of just have become more comfortable with it. So that's something unique about my family. We're born with extra fingers.
One interesting thing about my family is that my mom is 4 years older than my dad. They got married when my mom was 32 years old and my dad was 28 years old. And now my mom is 63 years old and my dad is 59 years old. And they are still happily married. So that age difference hasn't changed very much about their relationship. They still make all of their decisions together and they still love and respect each other equally, which I think is great. In the United States, that's a little bit uncommon to have the woman be older than the man, but it is not considered a bad thing or looked down upon.
One interesting thing about my family is that my mom is the boss. My dad acts like he's in charge, but everyone besides him knows that the real power belongs with my mom. My dad completely adores my mom, which I think is so cute. But more importantly, I think this sends a very important message because my family has been made up of very strong women, from my grandmother to my aunts to my cousins and to my mother. And this in turn has allowed my sisters to blossom into the very strong, independent young women that they are today.
So one unique thing about my family is that my parents have 4 daughters and no sons. When I tell that to people, especially in Vietnam, they're like, "Oh no, your poor father. You only have girls in your family and no boys." And I'm like, "Yeah, and it's awesome, and my dad loves it." No, not my poor father, because me and my sisters are great, so no need to worry about not having any sons in the family. And so I'm the youngest. I'm 23. My oldest sister is 10 years older than me, so she is 33. My second oldest sister is 31, and my third oldest sister is 30. An interesting thing is that none of us are married yet. When I first tell people about the 4 daughters thing, they're like, "Oh my god." But then when I tell people that none of my sisters are married yet and then their ages, they're like, "Oh my god." I don't think it's that weird at all. None of my sisters want to get married anytime soon. Some of them are in relationships, some of them aren't. I think that in Vietnam, people get married at a lot younger of an age. So it's really surprising and uncommon for people my sister's age not to be married, and also like my age not to have like a boyfriend or something. So they're very curious as to why we're not married yet. But it's a personal choice, and we decided not. Well, my sisters don't want to get married yet, so they're not. And my parents are fortunately okay with that.
One unique thing about us is since I was born in Colombia and also my sisters were born in the United States, we speak two different languages at any given time in my mother's house. So my sisters will speak with each other in English and they speak with me in English, but when we address our mom or other adults, Spanish-speaking adults, we speak in Spanish. So sometimes, for example, during dinner, we speak two languages. The other thing I want to say is we don't want to lose our native language, and so I taught my youngest sister, her name is Michelle, I taught her how to speak Spanish. She's 14 and she can speak better Spanish than almost everyone in the family. She reads and writes. We're very proud of that.
One interesting thing about my family is that my parents are divorced. They got divorced when I was 9, and some people, when their parents get divorced, they live primarily with one parent and only see the other one on the weekends. But for me, I split my time equally. So every 2 days, I switched to live in a different house. So I switched houses every 2 days, except I stayed 3 days on the weekends to follow my dad's work schedule. It was very hard, but I think moving around so much has made me a very adaptable person, and it is why my time living abroad has been so successful.
And one unique thing about my family is that we used to have 5,000 pigs on a farm in rural Nebraska. Me living in Vietnam is very far from anything any one of my family members, my cousins, or any relatives ever thought would be happening, because our family always grew up on small farms, living in Nebraska where everyone sticks together and stays together. When I was in high school, I would spend every morning or in the middle of the night working out at the pig farm with 5,000 pigs every day. It definitely was not my ideal job or ideal place to be, but it's very unique for my family and very important for our community in rural Nebraska.
One unique fact about my family is that my dad was the product of an accident in more ways than one. My grandparents were in a car crash a long time ago, and my grandmother flew out the windshield, and she was in a coma for a month, so she didn't wake up for that 1 month, and they thought she was going to die. But she recovered, she got better, and they told her, good news, you aren't dead, and you are also pregnant. And that baby was my father. So every day I feel very lucky to be alive.
Something interesting about my family is that my mom is always the boss. She has owned her own company for over 20 years. Right now, she owns a frozen lemonade company, which is a dessert. But before, she owned a consulting firm. When she owned that business, my father was actually her employee, meaning my mom was my dad's boss. He worked for her and she ran the whole company. So my mother has always inspired me to be a strong woman. She is an incredible leader. She always commands the room, demands attention, and is very well respected by people from both genders. So my mom is an inspiration to me because she's such an incredible woman.
One really interesting thing about my family is that for my entire life, we have eaten almost every meal at this really small coffee table, and we sit on plastic stools. I personally have a seafoam green plastic stool that I've painted my name on with nail polish when I was a child. Still use it to this day, and I really love it, and I would not give it up for the world. Whenever I went to my friends' houses as a kid, I'd always wonder why they set these big tables with these big chairs, because I was used to sitting at a small coffee table with little plastic stools. To this day, whenever I have friends come over, we eat at the coffee table. The only time when we use a bigger table is when there are too many friends and we can't fit at the coffee table, so we have to move.
One interesting thing about my family is that my mother has been married 3 times. First, she married my father, but then they divorced, so she was single. Then she married my first stepfather, a man named Elliot, but he died, so she was a single mother again. And then she married a third man, Peter, who is now my stepfather. Because my mother was so often a single mother, she always had to have a job in order to support herself and support me and my younger brother. So she really made me value being able to support myself and be independent. Although sometimes it was difficult, I really appreciate that she gave me that value.
So one thing that's interesting about my family is everyone has different color hair. There's 5 of us. I have blonde hair, my sister has red hair, my brother has black hair, my mom has brown hair, and my dad has no hair. He's bald.
One interesting fact about my family is that I have 2 moms. So my parents met when they were in high school. At first they were just friends, but they did date a little bit in high school. For a while they weren't together, but when they got back together after university, they decided right away to get married. So they first got married in 1984, before gay marriage was legal in the United States. It wasn't until 2013 that they were legally allowed to get married. We had a huge party and a big wedding. My sister and I were already grown, but we were able to walk my parents down the aisle.